You are the host.
I am.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good deal. Good morning, everybody. Cathy Hager here. And I know some of you might have seen some of these slides before, but it's definitely been a market that, and is my picture up or is my screen not sharing yet?
It is not sharing yet.
Okay, let's share the screen. Make sure we got the screen shared. Share screen. Oh, sorry. Here we go. And that's what I want to share. Now, there you go. Okay. So one of the things that the past couple of years has taught me is that you have to be a little flexible and you have to be a little bit flexible, but you need to know your things. So a couple of the things that I want to hit today, and we'll go through the slides, is and this present market that we're in today is not the same market that we were in January. So you need to know your basics. You need to stick to the basics. You need to know your market. You need to know who your lenders are. You need to know your options. And then always, always, always set expectations. If you set expectations with people, it makes things a lot easier when something comes up unexpectedly. It's a lot easier to deal with. Like I said, if I've learned anything in this market, and thank the Lord we're not in that dog eat dog that we were in just a few months ago, is that you just want to please people. And I try to be a people pleaser, and that is our job to do. However, when we do it, we need to do it to the best of our ability. So I guess if I just click on this, I can see on my screen too, or nope, right here. I got it. Okay. So, there it is. And y'all know the one with technical difficulties. So working with our present market, let the fun begin. The first couple of things that we need to do is figure out how to operate a computer from the beginning. Here we go. Is to understand the value that we have as real estate agents. Is it not giving it to you?
It did not.
Okay, did not, nope. Like I said, you need to learn how to operate a computer. So this one is the one I want to share. It ain't sharing.
So it's sharing the first one. Bring it up because you have 3 screens.
Okay, that's why.
Okay.
Let's cut
That's
that
the
one.
one it's trying to share. I
Okay,
think.
there we go. Here we go. I think we've got it now, guys. Okay, so the role and value of an agent. Please don't underestimate what you know or what you don't know. Is it still not?
That one changed.
Okay.
This one did not.
Okay, maybe I'm not sharing that one then. Let's show my taskbar. Sorry, guys. Okay, this is the one that needs to be sharing. Let's get down to 1. At least you got a pretty picture. Share this. Now let's see if you can tell me any different. You show me what. Okay, share. I have everybody's screen recording. Okay, I can do that. There it is. I found it. Nope, I want to stop share on that one. Oh, come on. People calling me. Share. Can I do it on yours?
I don't have any PowerPoint. So
Right here is where I need to be, right?
okay, so in here.
Well, stop sharing that one.
Yep, stop sharing that one and then tell it you want to share screen.
You want to touch it? We'll stop. No, we're going to record. Okay, well, guys, I might just put you towards the TV.
Okay.
Share screen.
There it is. And then choose who you're gonna share.
This one.
Okay.
Okay, so it ain't doing it for them, but can you see that?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Stop it again. Do
You
need to
just
stop
touch it.
I
You can
don't-
touch it. You can touch it and it'll work.
Not really.
Okay. Then it's got to be the second one that I'm sharing.
Yeah, because
Which
that's
is this
what's up there.
Okay.
So we're gonna try this and see if this works. Is that where you are?
Wrong one. Oh, great.
Tell it to stop sharing right there.
I got to get it back. Okay, guys, I am trying to get it back on here. I am so sorry. We have had issues with this before. I think I can do it all on Zoom and then PowerPoint. I don't want that. Okay. This is the screen I want. There's only one up. And I want to I want to do a slideshow. And I want to share it. I might just be talking through this, y'all. I'm sorry. Just recording a blank screen. Okay,
Okay, so let's stop the recording for a second.
you have a
And we'll start
copy of
back
it.
on. I have a copy of.
I thought I sent you a copy of it earlier. We might just have to.
Oh, did you? I have not looked at my email. The computer tell it to stop recording.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to the PowerPoint. So working with buyers in this present market has been a challenge. It has been a little bit different than what we have dealt with in the past. And I'm just gonna shut that down and go to this one. It is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. I will make sure all of y'all get this PowerPoint out to you so you can kind of go through it. But the first thing I wanted to touch on was the role and the value of an agent. Don't underestimate your importance. You've went to school, you've paid to get your license, you have done these classes. Remember to be a professional because you are a professional. Look professional, act professional, and make sure that you do what it takes to be a good representative. Now, you won't always work with buyers. Sometimes that buyer is going to turn into them looking for a house and you helping them sell their house. So don't always think that working with buyers is going to confine you to that. One of the most important things is the buyer counseling session. Be prepared for anything. Most people don't know what they want. Some people do, some people don't. Sometimes we'll get calls on the phone from people that have seen a sign that you've got that you might have something for sale. And if that doesn't work, you know, if they're at that house that you're selling is not what they want. Find out what they want. Ask questions and then listen. As y'all can see, one of the hardest things I have to do is to listen. So that was a challenge for me, but listening to them, you find out more about what they want. You find out more about who they are and actually what they're looking for. The next thing is your role and the importance of your role. Again, don't underestimate who you are. And know what you're going to say to them. I practiced this. In my sleep last night, I went over in my head. What I should have done is had my computer and told it what it was going to do. I promise you, but this won't happen again. So today we're going to go over working with real estate agent. We're going to screening the buyers, qualifying buyers, buyers agreement, scripts, how to show houses, setting expectations, the fair housing, and for sale by owners. And I promise I'll be quick, but I'll send the PowerPoint out. I'll make sure it gets to Melissa and everybody can see it. So working with the real estate agent document, okay? It is very important. Now, I'll have both of them here, the one for the listing and the one for the buyers. Now, we used to have just the brochure. You can get a brochure if you go to the commission site, the North Carolina Real Estate Commission site. You can order some of those. I keep some of those just because they are easily to explain. One of the things that we do as agents now is a lot of us do a lot of .loop. And so you're not actually handing them paperwork. I still have clients that want to see the paperwork, but you need to understand the paperwork and know what the paperwork says. The commission did split it up for us, so it makes it a little bit easier. You're working with the seller, you've got a seller document. It says seller across it. You're working with the buyer, which is what we're talking about today. You have that on there and understand what it means and why it's important that they have this. This is not a contract between you and them, but the first substantial contact you have with them, I'm not going to come up and say, oh, Melissa, hey, how are you doing? You looking for a house? You got to sign this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to talk to them a little bit, but when they start telling me financially what they can afford, price, financing, anything like that, you need to kind of stop and say, I'm glad you've checked into that. I'm glad you're sharing that information with me. Always make sure they've not dealt with another real estate agent. And if they're already working with them, because you'll have people that do that, especially with open houses, and then say to them, well, you know, North Carolina requires us to explain a few things to you about working with an agent. And I don't have the document with me, but I will have you to sign it. But I want to kind of explain it to you just a little bit and kind of have this in your mind to what it is to explain to them this document I'm working with on buyer agency, dual agent. There's a difference in that. Designated dual agent and unrepresented buyer. So know this information. The more that you can know, and if you can't memorize it, as I was saying, there's things that I don't remember sometimes, have it with you, kind of go over it. If you want to go ahead and give it to them, some people don't want to hold paperwork. They want everything to be done on .loop. And so if you want to have the brochure, then you could give them the brochure and they could take it with them. And why? Why do you have to do this? First of all, it's the law. You have to do it. Secondly, it's required by our firm to have this document signed. If anything should ever come up working with a buyer, the first thing they're going to say is, did you get them to sign with that working with real estate agent? Did they understand who they were working with and why they were working with them? Yes, it is the first one that has to be signed. Absolutely. It's not one of these things that you get everything done, you're under contract, and you go looking through your paperwork. Because I brought that also, a list of things that you're going to have signed. And this is on, if you go into .loop, into templates, it'll tell you .loop required buyer documents, Lantern Realty. Now, a few of these might not pertain to everybody. If you're in the city, you don't have to have well, septic, that kind of information. And if you don't know where to get these, find out where to get these. But these are important that you have these documents. But don't wait to the end and say, oh, wait a minute, I never got you to sign that. You didn't sign that. Because she's right. it is important that that be the first thing that be signed. So working with the real estate agent, the documentation that you're going to have is so important that you go over. Approaching the subject, as I said, can be tricky sometimes. And I've had people say, oops, stop, don't talk to me no more. Don't tell me any more information. You got to sign this. I got to tell you about it. It don't have to be done like that. You can slide it in. You know, one of the things that I've learned as an agent is you're just having a conversation with people, but you are the professional and you are the one that knows what has to be done and when it has to be done. And you just kind of learn how to approach people with that information. Yes, go ahead.
So actually being decided for inside the buyers. So whichever one the buyers, fantastic, have them sign the thing, make a copy of the sales.
I didn't know that.
That is how they made it, but just about every uses it's separated.
Right, that's correct.
So look at that. I merged the document and made one document, 2 pages.
Okay.
So it's buyers and sellers, and then I did it in reverse of all that. So I saved mine. I just merged the document and saved it. So every time I pull my copy up for my clients or potential clients, it's automatic 2-page document with the buyer and seller. So I don't forget to do that.
Can that be something shared in the Lantern documents?
Possibly.
Okay, and we'll check on that because that's one of the things I think is very important. You got to know what your documents are, and you need to understand them and why that is important. If you're talking to someone over the phone, okay, and they start telling you that, email them this document, okay? Email them and then kind of explain that they've got it and they can see it and you can go over it with them, but you can also send them .loop. One of the things that people say is, oh, you didn't give me that document. Well, if I sent you something in .loop, you have access to all documents in your file in .loop. You can go back and look at it. If I did it as just a PDF, then I sent it to you in your email. They should have a copy there. If you're working with somebody that wants a paper copy, just print it and take it to them. But you have to make sure that they have this within 3 days of contact with them.
Hey, Cathy,
Yes, ma'am.
can you summarize what Melissa was saying? We could not hear her.
Okay, that's fine. What she was saying is that the commission actually would rather this form be front and back. So you've got buyers on one side and sellers on the other. And I apologize, I'm getting a little hoarse, but so what she done in her file, you know, in .loop, I go in and kind of set my forms up that I use all the time. And so what she done is she ran the buyers and the sellers back to back so that when you go into .loop, it's both of them are there. Both of them are there. And the reason being is the commission says they need to have that. Now, I'm not sure about this, but I think that, and I know positively on the Working with Real Estate Agent brochure, it has both of them. So I'm pretty sure that's why they're requiring that. I have in my .loop separated out all the forms I need for a buyer. If you don't have that, if you just click on listing or buying, then this document pulls up. It's called required documents. Okay. But this Working with Real Estate Agent, she's telling me you have to have both of them. So if you print them, and you can print them 2-sided, do that. If you can't, run them back to back so that when you send it, or if they sign it, they have a copy of the buyer and the seller form. I did not know that, so I've learned that today, which is good that we know that. But we always want to make sure that we have the documents for the commission. I'm gonna tell you all a little story, and I'm gonna grab my water right quick. Well, I can't reach it. Missy, would you hand that to me? I just had a buyer that I've been working with for 1.5 years. Okay. Sometimes you just got to let it go. This buyer this year terminated 3 contracts for whatever reason, okay? Having your documentation, having your paperwork is always protection for you. This client, I'm not going to say she's crazy. She just didn't know what she wanted. And I don't have time to go through the whole process, nor do the sellers. That's unethical in my book to wait and cancel something at the last minute. Did she have to pay due diligence? Yes, she did. She just gave her money away. But when that happens, you need to make sure you're covered, because for some reason they might come up and say, hey, I want my money back. She didn't tell me about that. She didn't do that right. You need to make sure you got everything lined up and that you have everything in order accordingly. And if you think you might not have something, ask. Just ask. Melissa will help you. And there's .loop classes that you can take, but just ask. Thank y'all for being patient. Okay. So give them a copy of the brochure. Explain the duties of an agent. I know when y'all went to school, you learned about the old car, right? Obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, and reasonable care or diligence. If you can't remember, write it down. I know the old car, but write it down. Write it down and have it with you and explain to them your fiduciary duty is these things, but kind of explain to them why it's important that you have everything lined up for them. Explain the agency's policies. As Miss Melissa said, we have to make sure we have all of our documentation signed. I was not aware that the working with real estate agent has to be signed first. And if you're getting it done by .loop, it's timestamped. So again, don't wait to the last minute and do it. Do it first of all. That's an agency policy, and I'm sure that's a commission requirement. And then determine the type of agency relationship you're going to have with them and possess in the future. Understand what the difference is in dual agency and dual agent. A lot of times, and I don't do a lot of dual agent if I can help it, because I want to be 100% for my buyer. If for some reason it works out and there's no conflict, there's not going to be any negotiations, and I can do that, they need to understand what the difference is in dual agency and dual agent. If they say, no, we don't want dual agency and all, well, we can't look at any lantern property. And come on, lantern properties everywhere. There's signs everywhere with lantern on it. So understand what it means, explain it to them. And I know I just had this happen with somebody. They're like, oh, well, I know you might have talked about that, but I won't pay that no attention. Make sure they understand, make sure they sign. This is probably one of the most important documents you're going to get with them. It's not the only document, but it is the most important document. And then be very careful. And I'm going to read this. I have a grumpy old man on this screen, and he says, real estate is serious business. All parties should be fully aware of their responsibility in the transaction. People are paying a lot of money for a home. Again, you have went to school, you've got your license, but you're accountable for those licenses. So know what you're selling to them. Disclosure to them is very important. They need to know that. So then screening buyers. I have a system kind of screening buyers. I don't know if y'all have the Buffini, but I actually pay monthly for my CRM with Buffini, which is wonderful because I'm able to go in and keep up with how I regulate my people. I've got a lady that I've been working with since May. She was not ready to sell. She's not hot at all. This opportunity of knowing where your client stands in today's market, in August, you're really good. Back in January, you better be on the ball with it, and you better know what they want. What do you want? You want this house? Well, if you want this house, this has got to be done now because it ain't gonna be here long. And that's how the market was. It's still that way on certain properties. If they're priced right, you're going to compete against them. If that's the one your client wants. I have a friend that she has looked for one school district, and we've been looking for 4.5 months. House is finally available. We're trying to figure it out. You know, it's been on the market a while. They want too much money for it, but we're working it out and still looking in that area. She's not a hot client. She's not one that, she can be though, right? She can be if the right house in that neighborhood pops up at the right price. And I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna say, hey, it's ready. It's there. We gotta go look at this house. This is what you want. This is where it's at. She's not been a hot client. She's been kind of, not so hot. And so I try to categorize people when I talk to them. I know how urgent they are. If they're renting and they need to be out of their rental by the end of the month, we better get on the ball because it's not going to happen that quick unless they got cash to pay for it. Because of what's the day? Today's the 9th. Okay. We're usually looking 30 to 45 days. That's a good timeline, 30 to 45 days if they're already approved by a lender. So create a buyer questionnaire that suits you and meets the needs that you have. And you can do that for your own personal reasons. I do it because as I'm talking to them on the phone and I'm saying, how soon are you looking to find something? If you want to go look at this house, if this house doesn't work, what else are you looking for? Have you already been pre-approved? And we're going to go over some of that here in just a little bit, but know what they want, take notes about it. And then I go into the Buffini and I add my notes and I figure out what's going on. Sometimes I'm in the screen typing it if I'm talking to them on the phone. And that's just for you. You may have somebody that is a year out from buying. In fact, I have a couple buyers right now that have been waiting for the market to drop. Is that going to happen? We don't know. I think things are going to slow down a little bit because of interest rates, which is killing them because they didn't want to pay that kind of interest rate. But the market is changing. In order for us to survive in today's market, we got to have our basics. Okay, so screen your buyers. Know who your buyers are. Like I said, I break mine up 3 categories: hot, they're able, ready, willing to purchase, pre-approved, focused, determined. We're going to look at this house and we're going to put an offer in today. That's my house. I want it. Okay. The second one is they're getting hot. They like the community. Maybe it's a new house. Maybe it's D.R. Horton set up a new area and they want to kind of look at the house, but they're not quite ready. In fact, if they're going to go to D.R. Horton, they might be able to just buy a future home. Make sure you go with them, because don't just send them. If you go with them, you're going to get commission. But if you just send them, they've got salespeople that's going to take care of that. So need it right now, hot, getting hot, and not so hot. And like I said, go ahead, AJ. Go ahead, AJ.
Oh, sorry. I was just joining. I was trying to mute.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a question. Please don't hesitate to stop and ask me something if you need to. So first and foremost, they call me on the phone. I seen your sign on this property that you've got listed. And I don't know if this house is really good for me, but I've been looking for a real estate agent and maybe you can help me. Well, have you already talked to another real estate agent? Are you already working with somebody? No, they're not working with anybody. Okay. What kind of price point are you looking at? The house that you got my number off of, is that kind of something you're looking for, or do you need more room than that? What are you looking for? Get their 4 wants, their 4 needs, and their 4 things they can't live without. Because I promise you, you start taking them to a bunch of houses, they're going to like this, or they're going to like that, or they're not going to like this. But always try to know what they want. Sometimes they don't even know what they want. And then the getting hot. Again, first thing, are you working with another agent? Have you already talked to someone? I had an agent call me not too long ago and say, do you have a buyer's agreement with this person? And I said, I did a year ago, but they decided they didn't want to look for a house anymore. So no, I do not have a buyer's agreement with them, but I appreciated and I thank them for calling me, for asking me, because if I did have a buyer's, and they'll do that to you. Sometimes buyers will do that. They will shop for real estate agents because they don't know. I've had people say, oh, well, I'm working with somebody at your company. I thought it was the same group. No, we're individual agents. So they just don't know sometimes. If they're not that hot, make sure you do a couple things. Make sure you hook them up on the MLS on a search. Okay. Make sure that they're getting searches every time they want them. Some people don't want them every day. Some people want them on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some people don't want them till Saturday morning. But make sure you set up a search according to what they like, what they want, what area they're looking for in the price range. You'll get an email telling you that they got that. So you can look at the same thing that they're looking at. Set them up on that, okay? And then contact them and say, hey, I don't know if you've checked your emails, but this house came on the market this morning. It's in your price range. It's something you're looking for. It's in the neighborhood you're looking for. Would you like to go look at it? And if they've already opened their email and they've looked at it, they know. Sometimes they call me before I call them, but I try to do that. I also, Tuesday mornings, and this is my Tuesday morning, is I try to contact them. I try to contact all of my people, the ones that I have things going on with, the ones that I don't have anything going on with that are not so hot like this, the ones getting hot. I try to communicate with my people at least once a week. Now, you know, if you're in active buying mode, if you're at the point with that buyer to where you're under contract, or then you're talking to them more than that probably. But at least once a week, I try to call my contacts. If I can't pick up the phone and contact them, I email them. You need to let people know that you're still there, that you're still interested. And I can tell you why. During COVID, it was a strange time for people. Things were a lot different. And I had a lady lives right up the road from me that I had gotten through actually doing phone duty and had talked to her for about a year. She was thinking about selling her property. And during COVID, I had a couple weeks that I didn't contact her. The next week, when I actually went out the grocery store, there was a sign in her yard. She was selling her house and it sold quick. Now, if I'd have been calling her every Tuesday, I did call her and say, I seen the sign in your yard. I can't believe you're selling your house. She said, oh, well, it was a lady I go to church with. Okay, that's fine. But if I'd have been calling her every Tuesday, my name would have been on her mind. And she might have went ahead and went with me. I don't know, but that taught me a lesson. So then we get into the people that are hot. Okay. What is somebody that's hot? Like I said, they're going to call me on the phone and say, hey, I want this house. I'm ready to go. Bring the paperwork with you. We're going to sign a contract. And I have signed contracts on the bar of a home right then. Call the other agent, said, I'm sending you this contract right now. We just made you an offer, and actually go under contract right then, right there. Always have your laptop with you, or always have the paperwork with you to do that. So what is a qualified buyer? Who is a qualified buyer? Pre-qualified or pre-approved? What's the difference? How is the client prepared? And the lender relationship. One of the things that, again, I just run into with the same person that terminated these 3 contracts this year, right at their due diligence date, is they need to understand that if they give you a pre-qualified letter, there's still things that need to be done, but you are going to be able to get in touch with their lender. You need to know that information. The lender needs to know who you are. You also need to know, when you sign that contract, who the attorney is. Do you have an attorney in mind? If you don't have an attorney in mind, we are affiliated with NIP Law. Or if you're not in this area, Concord, Cabarrus, Rowan, and you're down in Albemarle, maybe it's another attorney that you've worked with or you're familiar with, or they don't know who they want to work with. And they ask you, well, do you know somebody in that area that we could work with? And if you do, make sure that they are aware that you have the right. You're going to contact that lender. You're going to contact that attorney to make sure. This person that I was speaking of didn't want me to know who her lender was. Why? Because she wasn't really getting a lender. and she was using Legal Shield. I don't care if you use Legal Shield. Just give me the attorney's name, because I have to send them a contract and I have to be in communication. I am the liaison between that buyer and these other guys. The buyer is supposed to let me do the old car for them, because that's what I'm there for. The difference in being pre-qualified and pre-approved. Pre-qualified, again, guys, I'm gonna send you this. Basic review of credit by lender. First step in loan processing. They give an idea of the price. Pick up the phone. I picked up the phone on Saturday and said, hey, Terry Whitesell with Fairway, I got a client. This is their number. I'm going to have them call you, but this is who they are. This is the house we're looking for. I'm going to send you the link on the MLS. I'm going to send you the price where the house is. And he talks to them and I get a letter right back saying, yes, we can do that. Have they checked everything out? No. All they've done is done basic input, no documentation. The pre-approval is the mortgage application has been submitted. They've either went online, which they can do, fill out the application. The lenders have reviewed the documents. They've got specific loan amounts. They know what their down payment is. They know what their interest rate is. They're locked into that. They've sent them check stubs. They've got paperwork and it's in the process. A lot different. Okay. So people might ask you, do I need to fill out a mortgage application on pre-qualification? No, they don't. Pre-approval, yes. Do I have to pay an application fee? Not on pre-qualification. Because again, you're just picking up the phone and telling them, I could tell them, hey, I'm a millionaire. I got six bank accounts and I could tell them that. But until they have the paperwork, you're not really pre-approved. Does it require credit history check? Not on pre-qualification, but it does on pre-approval. Is it based on review of my finances? Not on pre-qualification, but yes, on pre-approval. And so there's a whole list and you need to have that list. You need to know when they ask you, well, I might not have this. One of the things that we as real estate agents are self-employed. Okay. Now there are deductions that I can take. So if I made $100,000, I might have $40,000 in deductions that I can take. Maybe that's a lot, but I might have that. So am I actually making 100? Because on my taxes, I'm only showing 60. So self-employed is a little bit different. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to work with, but don't worry. We have great lenders. We have great lenders and they need to be your best friends and you need to know them and you need to know how many days it takes. For instance, with a VA loan, it's going to take longer. So you go in and we're pre-approved for a VA loan. Well, it's not going to be a 30-day turnover. It's going to be at least 40 days, 42 to 45 is what they tell us. In the market that we're in today, not the one from January 2022, but the one in August 2022 is a little different. I encourage you to call the lenders, call a couple lenders. It might not always be Terry, and I love Terry, he's great, but you've got Movement Mortgage, you got the VA, you've got, if it's property or land or a farm, you got Farm Credit, but know your lenders, find somebody you can call. It might be somebody you've worked with in the past. It might not. It might just be that you're picking up the phone and calling to try to help your buyer. Why are you doing it? To help your buyer. That's all. That's what it's all about, is knowing the basics of the business to help your buyer. Prepare clients. And I know I'll be quick. Prepare your clients. Discuss the mortgage process. If you don't understand it, call your lender. Find out kind of what it is. I promise you, you need to know it yourself because things can change from the time you get to the lender, you got the application until you get to closing for them to say, you're ready to close. You got a few things that's got to be done. And there may be things that have to be done during the due diligence period that they're requiring. So know that for your buyer, kind of explain to them. Okay, we're going to fill out an application. We're going to put an offer in on this property. You're pre-qualified. We're going to get you pre-approved. We're going to get all the paperwork and everything there. Now, what are they taking a risk of if they don't get pre-qualified? If they don't qualify for this home, what are they taking a risk of? They've lost their due diligence during that time period, right? They've lost it. So you need to explain that to them before they start putting $10,000 and $20,000 down on their due diligence. Why would they do that? Well, in the past market that we've had this past year, people felt like that the sellers thought, oh, we've got to have all this due diligence coming in. Explain to them, you're not going to get your due diligence back just because you don't qualify. So make sure they understand the risk. Sometimes the lender can go over that with them and explain to them, but you're putting an offer in, you're putting the contract in, that due diligence money, that earnest money, you need to have it in hand. You need to get it and you need to have it in hand because you've only got a short period of time to do that. Explain that to them. If they know it ahead of time and they're aware of it, then you're good. Discuss unexpected events. Be sure your client knows. For instance, VAs, if it's not permitted, it might not fly. So if they're looking at a house that somebody's done a lot of home improvement themselves and they've not got it permitted, the VA might not work. Okay, well, if they're approved for a VA, they might also be approved for a conventional loan. They might not, but always discuss with them the options that you might have with that. Discuss the importance of keeping their finances clean. Please don't go buy a new car 2 days before. I had a client a couple years ago that said, well, it was Black Friday and we could get all these appliances. We could get new appliances. So we just went and put it on our credit card. Don't do that. Just wait. Be patient and wait. Be patient. What does that do? That might hurt your credit score because they're going to run it before they close. Before you close, they're going to run your credit score. So know that. If it's in an HOA, make sure their HOA is clean, because I've had them where HOA said, whoop, we're not going to close. You can't close. You owe us money. Who's paying that? They were fined for doing something and they haven't paid it. HOA has the right to stop that closing if it's not paid. So make sure you know what you can do to help them. Lender relationships, as I said, contact the loan officer, confirm the protocol for that client. And they're so helpful. I'm telling you, I don't know what I would have done a lot of times without them. So then we get to documentation that we have to have. What did we have to have from the beginning? First thing we had to have was working with real estate agent. At that point of working with real estate agent, you also had to have a buyer's agreement in order for you to represent them. If you're working with that buyer and they say, well, I'm not sure if this is the house I'm looking for, but we're looking at houses in Concord. Don't put on there that specific address. Put on there houses in Concord, and give a time frame on your buyer's agreement. Some people say, well, I do a year with them because I never know what else is going to come up. Well, I do a year with them, but if I buy that house and they sell a house, I do another agreement with them, a listing agreement. And then if they want to buy another house, I'm doing another buyer's agreement. Why? Because I want to make sure that I've got all the documentation that I need. It's just a form. They're like, oh, didn't we sign that with you last year? Well, yeah, but this is a different house. We want to make sure we got all the paperwork for it. Okay. Don't be hesitant to approach the subject, even though an oral agreement may meet an executed written agreement ensures and establishes duties and expectations. For instance, the due diligence, and the commission realizes that because they went in there and they added that to make sure that they understand in that little block what it says about due diligence, about earnest money, about the responsibilities of the seller. I just had a client a couple months ago. We literally sit down and had to go over every single item. Wasn't good enough for them. They didn't still understand it. Nick, thank the Lord, with Nip, was good enough to explain that what was important on the seller side and who paid for what on the seller side, and then what the buyer's responsibility was and what the buyer paid for. You also need to know that. There's on the VA, the seller can pay up to 3% of closing costs. Sometimes those things can't happen. Sometimes they can't pay anything. Make sure the client has a copy to take home to review. I always send my samples to them so that they have sample copy of the standard contract. They have a sample copy of our agreement with Lantern, with NIP, with Fairway, with our affiliates. Look at all your samples. And they're saying, oh, why'd you send me all that junk? Well, when you send it, they have a copy of it. And if anything ever comes up, you can say, hey, I sent you a copy of it. How about pulling it up? Let's look at it, go over it. Most will use .loop and explain .loop to them if you need to. Some will not. Okay, some will not do that. So some people think .loop is hard to understand. .loop has a thing to where if I'm sitting down with someone, I can have them sign there, but it gives them their own password. Don't think .loop don't know that whether they're sitting there or not, because you're not going to be able to go in and change things. That's illegal. That's unethical. And if I've learned anything in the past year, is ethics needs to be taught every month. With some agents, ethics needs to be taught. Okay. I won't say no more of that. It's important that they understand your responsibility. You're going to find all kinds of buyers. They're sweet people. You're there to help them. You're not there to be talked ugly to. You're not there to be there. For instance, if they're buying a home that they're going to be renting to somebody, if you want to help them or give them information, but it is not your responsibility to find a renter for their house. It is not your responsibility to get the documents that they need to get. That's their responsibility. And one thing that I found out as an adult is that when you make people work for something, they appreciate it more. But if you do everything for them and make it too easy on them, it's easy for them to back out. We don't want that. We want them to go through with the process. And you're thinking, oh my God, Cathy, you must have terrible clients. No, I just had one. But as I talked to another agent that's been there 29 years, you're usually going to get one a year. That's okay. Learn to spot the things that need to be done right. Okay, stick to your basics, know your market, know your lenders, have options and set expectations. Understand what loyalty means and understand and make them understand that you're going to negotiate. You're going to get to the point you're under contract, you got an inspection, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's 27 pages. They're going to fix everything. Well, I don't think they should fix everything. What should they fix? I think they should fix the things that affect the home. You know, if they want to fix everything, now I have people that's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was going on. We're going to take care of everything. Great. But then I have people that say, as buyers, they say, well, you know what? If they'll just give me a little bit of money at closing, I can take care of that, or it's not a big deal. You know, I don't care if there's a crack in the countertop. I'm changing the countertops out. If they'll give me some money for that, be flexible, show them that you're going to negotiate, and if they tell you to go, I want everything fixed. You got to tell that other agent, because why? Because you have loyalty and obedience to tell that other agent. The other agent's probably going to say, they're not going to fix everything. Okay, what can we work out? Negotiate. And if I've learned anything, being nice to people gets you a lot further than demanding things. As I said, this market that we are just coming out of, thank God, has turned people into dog eat dog. And I'm going to do this, or you're going to do that. I had agents call me and tell me, you're going to take my offer because I'm telling you are. I'm like, well, it's not the best offer. Well, why is it not? Well, I can't tell you that, but I can't make that choice. It's my client's choice. So we're going to be nice to people ethically. And as Lantern agents, we're going to be nice. Things to remember: know your forms. Don't expect them to sign something you don't know. It's like, why am I signing that? I don't know. Because they tell me you got to. That don't work. Remember that some clients may be resistant to signing. So there are scripts on the internet. All you got to do is Google real estate scripts. I would warn you to be careful not to say things that are not true. For instance, when you're working with a for sale by owner, your buyer says, hey, I've seen a sign. It's a for sale by owner. And I pick up the phone and I call and I say, hey, I seen you're selling your house, and I'm not calling you to try to list it for you. I'm calling you because my client was interested in looking at your home. Okay. Now, don't ride down the road and see the sign for sale by owner and call and say, hey, I've got some clients that are interested in your house, because you're lying. If you don't have it, you're lying. That's not good. In fact, there was a firm last year, year before, that got in trouble for that, for telling people things that were not so. Don't do that. So if you do have somebody that's interested, call them. And I do say this to them, don't let your client call them. You want to call them, because somebody's got to pay your commission. And it's not, it is about the money, but it's not about the money. It's about the fact that they've signed a buyer's agreement with you. They need to let you do your job. So I call them and I say, hey, I've got a client, they rode by, they give me your number. We'd like to come look at your house, but let me ask you this. Are you willing to pay my commission? And they say, absolutely not. That's why I'm listing it myself. Okay. Then I'm going to call my buyer back and I'm going to say, I've called, we've got an appointment. We can go see the house. There's a couple options that we can do here. He does not want to pay my commission. So you will have to pay my commission. So we can work that out with the lender. If they want the house and they like the house, then they're going to pay your commission, because most likely that for sale by owner doesn't realize that he could probably get more for the house if he would let a real estate agent handle it. And he probably could, or he's asking too much. But anyway, I'm the one that's got to deal with an individual, not an agent. So they need to know that somebody's got to pay the commission. That's just being a professional and doing your job. Okay. So, right. That is true. That is exactly right. And she is telling me that in the buyer's agreement, it says that they're responsible for that. And it also has a place in there. I've had this question asked to me. Do you ever charge people a flat fee if they back out? No, but at this point with that one client that I should have, because I've had to pay people to go show property for them. Okay. Now, there is a place in there that you can add that. I have had agents to say, if I show somebody anything less than $100,000, I'm charging a $500 finder fee. In other words, if they don't buy any of that, for me going and looking at this and doing the work, they're going to pay me $500. Know your documents. Ask questions if you don't understand them. That is in the buyer's agreement that you can do that. So I'll wrap this up, guys, because I know that it's been a while for you guys. There's a couple of things you do need to remember. Know your forms. Keep in mind, once clients have signed the buyer agreement, they feel a sense of obligation to see the process through with you. They don't want to jump around. So let them sign that. Don't forget to have the ability to fire a client, and they also have the ability to fire you. I had never done that till this time, and I basically said to them, I can no longer represent you. Our buyer's agreement has termed, and my firm will not allow me to represent you anymore. Now, if they say, well, I want to talk to your broker in charge, that's fine. He's going to tell them that I have the right to do that. And why would you do that? Because sometimes you can't help them. I couldn't help this person. I mean, we had looked, this is no lie, we had looked at 39 homes. We had looked at property. And I'm not talking about in my local, I'm talking about 45 minutes to an hour away. We need to go look at this. I need to go look at this. I want to go look at this. 3 times we were under contract. The last time, and I said this to her, if you terminate this contract, I can't help you anymore. Why? Because it costs me money and my time is valuable. My opinion is valuable. That's another thing that will happen is people will call you and say, oh, well, I've got an agent I'm working with, but you tell me what you think. Well, you need to call your agent and ask them, if they're not giving you the answer, then talk to their broker. But I'm not going to give you information that you need to get from them. My husband tells me all the time, you're just giving it away. This is my job. This is my profession. It costs me, it costs you every quarter, it costs you every year, it costs you an education, it costs you. So it's always a good practice though, if you haven't helped your client to reach their goals by the end of the expiration date on the buyer's agreement that you reevaluate either the client, the market, or what they want. And again, set expectations with them. I'm just going to touch on this, working with buyers, be safe. There was a great a video that Chris just put out, or he had linked, about safety. If you're not in favor of the Second Amendment, then find you something that will protect you. There's pepper spray. Never go, as a female or male, I say this too, never go to a home and go in the basement in front of somebody. I never go up the stairs in front of anybody. I don't even go in basements, but be careful. Don't go in there by yourself. I have had homes that there have been people in. I mean, they were hiding. Actually looked at a home during COVID, and the kid undoubtedly was hiding in the closet. He had just been working and he was hiding in the closet, but kind of scared me. It could have scared him. I didn't know who he was, but never go by yourself. Thank goodness I wasn't by myself. There are people that get killed. Real estate agents need to be careful, need to be safe. One of the things that Lantern has, if you have not filled it out, you need to contact them and get it filled out, is there is a form that they keep on file that has the name of vehicle, your tag number, and your contacts, in case someone would call and say, hey, I'm at a house. It looks like there's a vehicle here. There's a lantern sign or something. Anyway, Lantern needs to have that information. Somebody needs to know where you are. Be safe, be careful. When I go into a driveway, I back into the driveway so that I can get out. Don't think it's not going to happen to you, because it happens every single day. And as females, and there's a lot of females that have are in real estate, and I mean, don't think that you can protect yourself by yourself. Be careful, be mindful. I was showing a property one time, and the lady stayed in the vehicle, and this was land, and the man went down through there and he stopped and he said, you just walked down in the woods with me. I said, yes, sir. Held my phone up. I had already called somebody. They were listening to the conversation, and I was prepared to defend myself with items that I had. He said, oh, okay. Well, it scared me for you. And I said, no, sir, I would not have stepped down in these woods with you alone if I was not prepared to defend myself. It still wasn't a great idea. It was still not smart, and I got fussed at for it. So anyway, be mindful. The last thing I'm going to hit on is fair housing. Are you compliant? We are in an environment that you need to know what fair housing represents. You need to know the words that you say, the way that you talk to people, the way that you, and I don't know if y'all ever seen this, you can look at it. There was a place in New Jersey. They went in secretly, and these agents were actually putting people in communities, and had done it for years and years, according to their ethnicity, whether they were Hispanic, Chinese, they were doing that. Oh my goodness, that's not good. You can't do that. Be careful with your words. Treat everyone the same. Be kind to everyone, even people that might not be kind to you. Be kind to everyone. Make sure that you know your business. And then I have one more thing and I'm done. Who you gonna call? Make a list of helpful numbers. Have a list of BIC, of the North Carolina Real Estate Commission, and your Lantern family. Remember that you're a professional and people trust you, and it's an honor and very rewarding to help someone achieve their home ownership. I can tell you this, one of the best things that I done, I had a couple, he was a pastor for 45 years, they rented. When they bought their first home, that was very rewarding, because I know that, and you know what, they were paying less owning a home than they were renting. And it's a much nicer property. That's rewarding, and that's very fulfilling to do that. Now, do we do it for the money? Sometimes we do, but when you do it just for the money, it shows. So have compassion, know your ethics, be mindful what you say. I'm so sorry for my ignorance on the computer. I will get this out to you. We will get it completed and get out to you. And thank you for listening to me. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm going to hush. But does anybody have any questions? Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
You talked to me. Yes. Yes.
I mean, copies.